it's Reagan and welcome to the start of another reading vlog. I'm so excited about this reading vlog because this reading vlog, I'm going to be reading some of my favorite booktubers' favorite books. And I also want to give a quick shout out that this video is sponsored by Cricut and I will be doing a fun holiday related craft later on in this video. But let's set you down so we can chat through my brain and the books I will be reading for this vlog. So now that we're up close and personal, let's chat the book. So truth be told, I am currently in the midst of a terrible reading slump. I keep picking up and putting down books. I truly cannot figure out what in the world it is I want to read. And despite being generally excited about my TBR, just like nothing is clicking for me. I don't even want to tell you the amount of books I've started and put down. So I've decided desperate times call for desperate measures, and that is I'm just no longer going to trust myself. I'm going to look to some of my favorite book reviewers online and pick some books that they've loved recently and just read them. And hopefully it'll pull me out of my reading slump. So I have 3 books here I'm going to chat through, all from different reviewers online. So let's begin. So the first book I picked out is A Far Wilder Magic, and I picked this up on Hannah from a Clockwork Readers recommendation. She posted semi-recently like a romantasy fantasy recommendations video, and there were so many books I've either read and loved on that video or books that were like I already owned or on my TBR that she recommended highly, but this one really called out to me because she says, if you love the romance in Full Metal Alchemist, you're gonna love this book. And if there's one truth about me, the Full Metal Alchemist makes up at least 10% of my personality. So I was basically sold after hearing that one sentence, but I think this is like a rival magician, small town magical competition sort of situation. I've owned this book for a while and I'm excited to finally be picking it up. But once I heard that comparison by Hannah, it was over for me. The second book I hope to get to is The Wishing Game by Meg Schaffer. This came from recommendation from Elliot Brooks, one of my favorite fantasy and just general reviewers out there. We have so much overlap. I always just trust and appreciate her reviews so much. And she describes this as a very cozy and heartwarming story that also has a lot of depth and like exploration of trauma. And it also kind of has a very interesting setup. It basically follows a woman who's kind of down on her luck and she's looking to make a change in her life, particularly because she's looking to adopt a young boy that's in her life. And the opportunity to turn all of this around is that a very famous author is having a competition at his house, and the winner of the competition gets a manuscript of his last and unwritten work, and the winner obviously would get a lot of money from that. It sounds interesting, but it also sounds really cozy and emotional, and I'm hoping endearing and it'll pull me through, you know what I mean? And the last book that is on my TBR is in recommendation from Murphy, another fantastic fantasy reviewer, and also one of the big reasons why I finally started watching One Piece. And that book is Best Served Cold. She reviewed this a few years ago on her channel, but most recently talked about Age of Madness by Joe Abercrombie as one of her favorite reads for this year. And I own Age of Madness, but I also know I need to get through some of these standalone novels before I can jump into that. So between those two things, I was like, okay, I know I love Joe Abercrombie. Murphy loves Joe Abercrombie. Let's read some more Joe Abercrombie. But this is a standalone novel featuring our main character who is a very well-known and powerful mercenary, and she is on a revenge tour and she's gathering a group of unlikely individuals to achieve that revenge. Need I say more? I don't think so. So obviously a very ambitious TBR. Transparently, while all these books kind of have a fantasy vibe to them, I also feel like they are all very different from one another. I feel like I'm gonna kind of be bopping around each one until I can find my footing and hopefully break my slump. But these are the 3 books that I hope to be reading and featuring over the course of this vlog from 3 of my favorite reviewers online. Apologies for the longest intro ever, but there's a lot to explain and I'm also just excited, and it also feels like a solution to a problem that's been plaguing me. And I'm ready for it to be over. Decorating for the holidays also results in lots of bins just everywhere in my house. You know what I mean? Now, first off, isn't that cute? Second off, I've decided before I need to make any hard decision in terms of figuring out what book I want to read first, I'm gonna first make myself a cup of tea in my cute little festive book mug, do my seasonal craft because clearly I'm in the holiday spirit, and then I'm going to decide. It's so weird when like you don't feel like reading. It's like objectively things sound good, but then the idea of picking something up, it's like hard to actually decide. You know what I mean? Hi guys, we're about to sit down and do a very fun and very seasonal craft together because, quick reminder, this video is sponsored by Cricut. I love Cricut and I love working with them consistently on my channel. I have made so many cool things with my Cricut over the years, from bookmarks to name tags at my wedding. I made fall menus for my recent fall dinner party, and today we're going to be making a very fun seasonal holiday craft to decorate my bookshelf with. But if you're not familiar, Cricut is a series of machines and also a product line that works seamlessly with their machines that help empower you to take on and tackle any DIY or craft project in your life. That paired with their design space, which makes finding projects incredibly simple, as well as creating your own projects, I feel like it just takes all of the difficulty and guesswork out of crafting, allowing you to just focus on what you want to make versus agonizing over how you're gonna make it. Before we go into more detail about the craft I'm gonna be making today, I do want to shout out that I'll link my machine, the products I'm using today, as well as a link to the craft itself. So let's chat about what we're making. So I wanted to make some 3D Christmas trees to decorate my bookshelves with, and I found this design actually through the Cricut design space, so I'm going to be making it. I'm going to be using 2 different colors of green cardstock to make it. This craft is perfect because it's actually so simple, but I feel like it's going to have a huge impact. Let's just go ahead and get started. Literally all I have to do is put this on my mat, insert in my machine, and get cutting. And we're gonna have Christmas trees before you know it. So step 1 is make. Then I select that I'm using a mat. Add my first material on my mat. Select the product I'm using. Load the material into the machine and then press start. The Christmas tree creation begins. Second color of the tree now being cut. Peeling things off the mat is always my favorite part. It's just so satisfying. It's like a big sticker. Alrighty friends, I have 2 trees. In the midst of drying, they are assembled. And while they dry, I've actually decided I want to add some ornaments to the mix. I'm going to cut out some of this gold smart vinyl so I can attach it to my trees. Guys, look how cute these turned out. I definitely think adding the little stars was a perfect move, and I also love the 2-tone green as well. I can't wait to decorate my bookshelves with my cute little trees. Again, I'll have all of my products as well as this craft linked down below. Thank you again to Cricut for sponsoring this video. Honestly, Cricut for the upcoming holiday season, a perfect gift for yourself, perfect gift for someone you love, a perfect way to make your holiday cards and at-home decorations. It's truly a game changer. But yeah, me and my little tree are now going to decide what book I'm gonna read first to get out of this reading slump. Alrighty, I've decided to start with Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie because this is a pretty long fantasy book and I don't anticipate being able to finish the entire thing over the course of this vlog. And I'm familiar, I've read this author's writing before, so I know I'm gonna like it, so I feel like I can read a bit of this tonight. Hold off on making which book to start to finish until tomorrow because I just don't feel like I'm in a good headspace for decisions today. You know what I mean? Hello, I'm in bed. It is time to start reading. I got caught up in finishing a television show. Clay and I just finished Silo, which we started months ago. Then then I made us stop watching because I wanted to start One Piece, but we finally circled back and watched the last 3 episodes. It was good. And it made me feel really dumb when I realized it was Wool by Hugh Howley, which I own on my bookshelf. And I'm like, do I read it? Anyway, I'm now gonna start Best Served Cold. I cannot add another book to this TBR. No, we're reading this. Hello everyone, good morning. It is a gloriously gloomy day here in Austin, which I'm thrilled about. And I'm happy to report I've read 75 pages of Best Served Cold. I read this last night. And maybe the approach of reading Joe Abercrombie, which is one of my favorite authors, is proving to be a good one because I am horrified, but hooked like immediately with this book. The concept is good, and Joe Abercrombie just has a way with writing characters that are just awful but so compelling and likable at the same time, and I feel like we're going on like a whole nother level here with Best Served Cold. So this book is a standalone, and we're introduced to our main character Monza, who is a mercenary. And at the beginning of the book, she's basically betrayed, and then from there you see her as she's on the brink of death, brought back to life, is now living in immense chronic pain, and she is out to get her revenge and kill 7 men who were responsible for like losing everything that she once had, someone she loved dearly. And then we're also reading from another main character named Shivers, who you might recognize, and he has just arrived in this city where the book is taking place, which is in the South, because he's looking for a new and better life. He wants to be a better man. He doesn't want to, you know, maintain and continue the same patterns of his past, and he thought this city would be a welcoming, glittering city of opportunity, but he quickly finds himself with no work and no money, and unfortunately, despite his best to stay away from bloody business, he's pulled back in once again with Manza. So far, I've only really read from Manza's point of view, who is so compelling, so fascinating. Shiver's point of view, similarly like kind of a himbo for how violent he is. And then there's this other character named Friendly who's like very quiet, very, very gruesome, and I don't really have a full understanding of him. I'm assuming there's gonna be like more characters sort of folded into Manza's scheme and around her, but so far it's so good. I mean, this book is so, I mean, the tagline is bloody and relentless, and there couldn't be a more apt way to describe this book. It is so gruesome. Like, I like want to shut my eyes reading this sometimes, just the descriptors of the violence and even like the pain that is happening in this book is like, it's a lot. It's a lot. But it's also very, very compelling. I really like the concept, and I've read 10% of this book so far. It's a long book, but 75 pages is done. I'm definitely going to read more of this. And I feel like the shifting of perspectives and the jumping between chapters like also makes it very intriguing. I just feel like Joe Abercrombie, my favorite part of Joe Abercrombie is his character writing. It's just so compelling. And his like grim, dark, gray morals with his character writing is just such an interesting experience because you feel such dissonance, but also it creates such an unpredictable atmosphere because they're not good people. So I have no idea how they're going to react in different situations. Like sometimes they might surprise you for the good, and then other times they might do something so shocking and disturbing that you couldn't have anticipated it. But yeah, 75 pages. I'm now going to get dressed for the day, and I'm going to pick of the other two books I've already featured, which one I'm going to read through and through first and foremost. My hope is to read basically the entirety of A Far Wilder Magic and The Wishing Game and just see as far as I can get in Best Served Cold. But 75 pages so far have been read, and so continues the vlog. News, everyone. It's raining outside. Lightly, not very hard, but it counts. Also, look at my cute sweater. This is an old sweater, unfortunately, but it's so cute. But on my last update, I have decided the first book I'm going to start with, I'm going to read A Far Wilder Magic. I'm kind of craving some romance in a fantasy setting, so I feel like this could deliver with that. This book is just under 400 pages, so it's actually kind of long. We're gonna get started. I'm hoping it will read quickly. I think this actually might also be YA, which I'm not opposed to. So we're gonna start with this, especially now that it's raining. We have a cozy, gloomy atmosphere. Nothing could pair better with both defeating a reading slump and reading a book. Lunch is served. Hi friends, it is so deliciously gloomy outside. It's rainy and I'm thriving. And I'm also happy to report I've read 100 pages of A Far Wilder Magic, and I'm really liking this book. I can definitely see why Hannah compared this to The Full Metal Alchemist, because the tropes and the vibe, outside of the fact that there's literally alchemy in this, but it's not just because there's alchemy, it's also like the character dynamics of it really brings you to that place and brings you to that vibe. So to backtrack, what is this book about? So this book is set in sort of a historical fantasy-esque setting, like turn of the century vibes, which I feel like is getting more and more popular, which I don't mind because I kind of like it. It's one of those fantasy settings that feels kind of like an alternate version of our world. It's not medieval. There's like aspects of the technology you would expect at the turn of the century, but there's also, in the case of this fantasy world, alchemy. And it's also not our world. There's different religions, cultural groups, locations, but it's definitely reminiscent. In this story, we're reading from two main characters and perspectives. The first is Margaret, and she lives in a like huge kind of crumbling house in a small town with her mother Evelyn, who is a very famous alchemist. Her mother Evelyn has like a very focused goal, and that is to discover and create the ability to make the Philosopher's Stone. Again, absentee parent who has dreams of doing some fancy alchemist stuff. Full Metal Alchemist vibes. Anyway, her mother is constantly away from home, and recently she's been away for the past 3 months. Evelyn is lonely. She's also ostracized often in town because of her cultural background, and she dreams of creating a scenario in which her mother will no longer leave her. And the way that she feels like she can get her mother to stay is to participate in this like hunt that happens every year, but the location of the hunt changes. Basically, there is this like magical divine creature in the form of like a fox that appears in some small town along the coast, and from there people swamp to wherever the town is, participate and sign up for a hunt, because if someone is able to kill this fox, they're able to keep the bones and also receive a large amount of prize money. No one has ever been able to like defeat this creature. Keep that in mind. Margaret herself is a fantastic hunter. She's not an alchemist. Jump to our other main character. His name is Wes, and Wes dreams of becoming a powerful politician to like change things and help support his family. And to do this, you kind of have to become an alchemist, and he has a natural talent of becoming an alchemist. He's also incredibly charming, but he also struggles with actually like maintaining an apprenticeship because he wasn't able to afford to stay in school, so he needs a letter of recommendation to get admitted into a university to become an alchemist. But he's constantly dropped from whatever apprentice he has, usually because they're kind of like looking for a reason to drop him because of his religious background. Wes himself is the only son in the family that he lives in, and his father has recently passed away or is left, and his sisters and his mother like have to work to try to keep the roof over their heads while he's working to try to become an alchemist to like allow them to never have to work again. This creates conflict within the family, lots of shame and guilt that he experiences, and frustration between his siblings and himself. But basically Margaret and Wes begin to work together because they're both participating in this hunt, again, for different reasons. Wes needs the money, Margaret needs the bones. And so they've come into each other's lives, and just like the vibe and the energy of this book is really good. And I really love how the author is writing the alchemy. It's a real perfect mix of like the science of alchemy, which has to do with like understanding the materials and like the composition and the chemistry, with like the magical components and the outcome. And I'm always a sucker for alchemic based magic systems. And I just feel like it's really capturing the essence of it. And again, like I cannot emphasize enough, this very much gives Fullmetal Alchemist vibes from even like the setting and the time period and the dynamics between our two main characters. Like one is very Al and one is very Winry. You know what I mean? I'm just saying it. Al Winry fanfic, even if it's not true, that's how it's casted in my mind, and boy, is it working. But yeah, I'm charmed by it so far. I'm compelled by the story. I'm curious how this hunt is going to go, but so far definitely so good. I read the first 100 pages pretty quickly. I feel like it establishes a lot about the world without feeling like too info dumpy. And yeah, I feel like we're just gonna have two lonely characters coming together, which, you know, we always can appreciate. But that's almost 200 pages read. Do I still feel a little slumpy? Yes. Have I liked everything I've read? Yes, but I feel like I really have to focus to read, and I just want to effortlessly read, you know? But we'll get there. We will get there. But at least I'm reading is what's important in the end. But there's my reading update. I'm now gonna go watch Survivor, and then Clay and I actually have dinner plans tonight. So in the meantime, Millie and I are gonna go watch some TV.
What did you want to say about Bruce? Bruce as an item. Yeah.
Alrighty, we're about to head out on a date night, and this is our OOTN outfit of the night. All right, time to go eat. And just like that, we are back home after a very delicious dinner. I'm gonna read more of The Far Wilder Magic, and Clay has started a new book.
Everything I Never Told You.
By Celeste Ng, one of my favorites.
I finished Sea of Tranquility.
Oh, you did? What would you rate it out of 5 stars?
4.25.
Solid
really
read.
Good.
Yeah, very compulsive. But anyway, it's time to read. No more distractions. Good morning, everyone. It is wonderfully gloomy outside. I have my cup of coffee here, and I have a reading update for A Far Wilder Magic. I've officially read about 200 pages of this book, which puts me slightly over 50%. So I'm liking this story. So obviously introducing us to our two main characters, Wes and Margaret. I love their dynamic first and foremost. And I feel like the balance of the story is like the character relationship between Wes and Margaret, understanding their past, understanding how their individual family trauma and dynamic have impacted each other, and kind of seeing how that creates their relationship together. But also alongside of that, we have the plot line of not only this small town, a town that in one part embraces Margaret, loves Margaret, but there's also people there who do not accept her purely based on who she is and who her father was, and the hatred and the silence and the complicity that a lot of people in this town have because of this. And even though Margaret loves this place, loves this forest, she's also treated by many as an outsider. And then we also have this hunt that is happening within this town, this competition, which really keeps the plot really fast, because obviously the character dynamics between Wes and Margaret I love so much, but then alongside of that we see them have to problem solve, try to think of a solution and how they're going to create the necessary like alchemic weapon to make sure that they can win this competition, because they are both desperately trying to succeed for their own reasons. And while they both have sort of misgivings about the competition itself, it does sort of center both of their passion. So seeing them explore and kind of show their strengths in various situations is great too. And there's the obvious hunt, but there's also like lead up competitions that have occurred too, which I just feel like provides a great backdrop and also keeps the plot line of this book moving forward. But I will say my favorite part about this book is definitely Wes and Margaret's like dynamic together. I love them, you know, communicating, and also I love them separately, and just seeing and understanding them like the further I get into this book, they're just so lovable. Margaret is desperately lonely. She transparently has been very much mistreated by her mother, abandoned, forgotten, and her mother's like obsession to try to complete her life's work, if you will. Also because she's often mistreated by people in town, she's just very closed off. She doesn't believe that she deserves love, and she doesn't really put herself in positions to receive love. And she also is like very strong and reserved, but you also see situations where she sort of retreats into herself very, very quickly, because she just doesn't have the confidence that she can in fact stick up for herself. Where you have Wes, who is this very charismatic, very affable, almost like so affable that he uses it as a shield to be perceived that he is not like emotionally impacted by anything or anyone. And this was a shield probably put in place after the passing of his father, because he didn't want to feel like an emotional burden to his family. I love the family dynamic that he has with his family. It's complicated because his sisters obviously have resentment towards him, but they so clearly love each other, and like just like the conversations need to be had. I love how he contrasts and what he brings out of Margaret. I find them as a pair to be so compelling and just so cute. He's also just like so silly, and as a city boy in like a country setting, it's just like fun to read and experience, if you know what I mean. But I'm looking forward to see how this competition is going to continue to unfold, as it's very interesting so far, and most importantly, I'm excited to see how the relationship of Margaret and Wes is going to continue to unfold. I feel like the small town dynamic is working quite well, and I feel like this sort of like murky historical fiction turn of the century, but it's a fantasy world with magic setting, is getting very popular. Because I feel like, or maybe I'm just seeking out all the books with this setting, I don't know. I like it. I'm a fan of it. I feel like it allows there to be magic, but there doesn't necessarily need to be a lot of world building, because a lot of the functionality of this world we're already familiar with. So like I appreciate that, if you know what I mean. But anyway, I'm gonna sit down now and do more reading. But I've read 200 pages and I've read 100 pages of Best Served Cold, so we're definitely making progress. I'm going to finish this book today, if not this morning. That is my plan. It's time for some more coffee this morning. Cheers. Time to sit there and kick Millie out of my spot again and do some reading. Hello friends, I've just been having the coziest morning over here, and I'm happy to report I've read another really decent chunk of A Far Wilder Magic, and I'm really liking this book. Again, the competition part and the small town parts I feel like really add an oomph to the story, but my favorite by far is just the character dynamics between our two main characters. It's just so endearing and sweet. Watching them try to not realize that they like each other is just so cute. They're both so heavily in denial about their feelings and like trying to persist or ignore it and like continue on like nothing has fundamentally changed between the two of them. Is just so endearing. And the dynamics are just hilarious between the two of them, and the Full Metal Alchemist comparison persists to be strong, both in the character tropes I feel like at play, but also again, some of even the alchemic plot lines of this book. And I think it just works really, really successfully. And I also really appreciate how centered family is within this, both like the good and bad elements of it. And I also appreciate how our two main characters like desperately, what is it? The thing that they will not allow themselves to accept or see for themselves, they so desperately want the other person to see that they deserve various things, you know, from other people or from their family, and like they're trying to protect each other while not protecting themselves. It's just like, ah, I'm just emotional about it. But yeah, this book is really, really cute. I wouldn't say it's like mind-boggling from a plot point of view by any means, but the character writing and the growth of the relationship is just so nice that I am okay with it at this juncture. I'm gonna probably finish it now, and then I'm gonna work on some chores around the house as it is Sunday. And then from there, we're gonna start the third book for this vlog, The Wishing Game. I have officially finished 385 pages read of this book, and the cover is so cute. And I really liked it. I think I would definitely stand by my assessment of like, it wasn't a mind-boggling story, but I did find it to be incredibly heartwarming and endearing. I really enjoyed the characters, and just like the inputs of the book too was just like a really good time. I wouldn't just technically put this under like a cozy fantasy book, but to me it felt like a very cozy story. It had an interesting plot, but just like the world of the characters and ultimately like how they were able to come together, find happiness and love, it was just like, you know, my heart. You know what I mean? So anyway, that book is done, and now I'm going to start The Wishing Game, which I'm really looking forward to because I also hear this is described often as more of a cozy leaning fantasy story. So I already have the dust jacket off, and I'm gonna get started on this like right now. Matilda and I are having a very cozy day, but I'm also happy to report that I have started The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. And so far I can honestly say I'm pretty intrigued by this book. It's more whimsical than I was even expecting, which I'm liking. And I think the setup and concept of it is like so bizarre that it kind of works. Very stranger than fiction reality. And while there are definitely some heavy topics and some things both of our main characters are clearly having to process, in this book, it's also right off the bat, you can tell, going to be like very, very sweet, which from the perspective of me as a reader, I picked this book up kind of hoping it would be not necessarily like no stakes, but a balance between some heavy emotional stakes, which I feel like we're gonna have with our characters, so they're gonna be very dynamic, but hopefully like a happy ending, romance, and just like something to root for, if you know what I mean. But what is this book about? So The Wishing Game follows our two main characters. The first character we follow is Astrid, and Astrid for a very long time has been working very hard, but not really able to make a lot of money and kind of struggling day to day. That being said though, she always kind of tried to focus on the positive. She was still very passionate about her job as she's a teaching assistant, but now that she has this very large and important goal in her life, she's no longer okay with just existing. She's looking to claim something larger for herself, and that goal is there is this young boy at her work. Again, she is a elementary school teaching aide that is in need of kind of a forever home. He's in a foster house at the moment, and she dreams of having the opportunity to adopt him. Unfortunately, adopting is just a very expensive process. She's doing everything she can to kind of try to save up as much money as quickly as she can so she can make this dream for both herself and this young boy a reality. Something that brings her and this young boy together is this love for this particular book series. There is this very famous author who wrote like 150 of these like short chapter books for children that were like beloved for many, many years. And they're kind of set on this place called Clock Island, and a bunch of like whimsical and magical stuff sort of happens, and kids go on quests like save the day, that type of thing. But he's been reclusive and he hasn't released a new story in a very long time. Our other main character we're introduced to, and he actually lived with and worked with this author for many, many years as an illustrator and kind of grew close to him. And he kind of has also a complicated past, and honestly, so does this author. But what brings all of these characters kind of coming crashing into each other's lives again is that the author decides to house this competition on Clock Island, and the winner gets the final and unreleased manuscript to like his last book. And obviously whoever wins this manuscript will likely have the opportunity to get a lot of money from whatever publishing company obviously is going to be publishing it, as everyone's going to be fighting to have the opportunity to release this in the world. So our main character is selected to participate in this very strange competition on this island, and she travels there. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm very much in the setup and synopsis of it. And as I said, I was kind of surprised, like pleasantly surprised by sort of the whimsical nature of the writing style. It definitely has that contemporary cozy feel, but I think the sort of peculiar nature and the fact that our main character in a lot of this book is about like a very beloved, strange middle grade story, and I feel like middle grade has this specific sort of whimsy and strangeness to it. I feel like the author is kind of imbuing this book with some of those qualities, which I think is working to its success. I think emotionally you're very quickly attached to both Hugh and Astrid. I'm not very far in this book, but already I'm rooting for them. I'm hoping the best for them. And you know, you can kind of see perhaps the blueprint of where this book might go in terms of these characters meeting and working with one another. I'm curious to see how the book is going to evolve, especially as our main character arrives on Clock Island and actually begins within this sort of competition sort of situation. I'm not sure how that's going to look, but so far I'm really pulled in by the writing style. And I think the concept could be one that, again, is both heartwarming and also dynamic and emotional at the same time. So I'm gonna read more of this. My hope is to obviously finish it today. I'm not gonna lie, downloading Paper Mario right now because I want to restart and start this game as well. I got a craving to play. And I'm trying to figure out something to watch on TV. I'm gonna make some popcorn, I think. I'm just having a full, relaxing, vibing sort of day, which is, you know, it's Sunday, so it's the best time to do that, if you will. So that is what's happening. And let's go make some popcorn. Popcorn is made.
Usually.
And for some reason, I've decided to start Outlander, which I've never seen or read before. Sitting down to read more. Millie is joining me, and I have to put fireplace on. Also, I feel very dumb. The female main character of this book is named Lucy, not Astrid. I misspoke in the last clip, but I'm gonna do a chunk of reading now, and then I'm gonna sort out dinner and probably watch more Outlander. Hello, Millie, with Matilda. Oh, this book is very charming. I can definitely see why Elliot enjoyed it so much. And I've officially read 100 pages, and I'm making excellent progress. This book reads very, 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 very quickly, and it's so interesting. It feels like a Hallmark movie warm hug, but it also has a lot more depth to it, and I think it's because you just have this hope for your main characters, but also understanding that the characters have been through a lot, and their perseverance and their desire to kind of break the cycle of some of the pain in their life is just like, your heart just reaches for them, you know what I mean? But as I said, we follow Lucy. She has a dream of adopting this boy named Christopher, and her clear love and devotion for this young boy is just like, again, melts your heart. And just the tragedy of the situation that she's in because of the system, because of her circumstances, because of the trauma she experienced with her own family. She as a child was kind of overlooked, ignored by her parents and by her sister, so much that she has kind of cut off all contact. So she therefore has had to make a lot of sacrifices and go out and not really have any type of community or help to you know, make it through life. Therefore, she has had to struggle and kind of face a lot of things alone. But in spite of that, she still has so much love, and she's also surrounded by people that love her too. So when she gets the opportunity to go back to Clock Island, it's so exciting, and obviously I'm rooting for her. I'm also really enjoying the writer character as well. He kind of gives like a Willy Wonka-esque vibe. The reason that all of these people are being invited, or how he made the selection for who got invited to participate in this competition, was basically any kid who came to his island in the past, like when they ran away from home, which was something our main character Lucy did, as she found a lot of solace in these works of fiction, and one day she really had enough, so she decided to flee and try to live with her favorite author. And he, while a flawed man, an interesting man, a man full of whimsy and riddles, is also a man with like a lot of empathy. And I would say like the Willy Wonka vibes, because his island is like removed and it feels almost like this unreal, fantastical place. And obviously a lot of characters who are coming to it have a lot of emotion associated with it. But yeah, I think the book is working so far. It's contemporary, but it somehow has this like feeling of fantasy, even though so far like nothing actually fantastical has happened. But I think just the nature of like the quests and the stories and the whimsy of the writing just kind of makes me feel settled into like what feels like a story that I read from my own childhood, you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm really enjoying Lucy as a main character. I haven't read much from Hugh yet, but I imagine as they become more involved in each other's orbit, I'll learn more. I did learn he is from England, so we love an accent. But yeah, this is cute and cozy so far, but does also have a lot of heart to it, so I'm going to be reading more of this tonight. But in the meantime, I am going to play Paper Mario, and I'm gonna watch Outlander, and I ordered a sub to eat for dinner. So, you know, I'm winning all around here. Sunday sub and selling sunset.
Keep about, mostly. Climb the walls. Maybe to fight the devil by pissing on the...
Hi friends, I have finally dragged myself away from Outlander, and we are now going to do some more reading of The Wishing Game. And I also believe it started raining outside, so I have a lovely ambiance to enjoy my evening read with. Plus Matilda is all snuggled up, so you know, we're about to get down to business. I'm about to get some serious pages in. So let's get to it. Apologies if you hear Matilda snoring in the background, but I've read another 50 pages and I would say I'm a little over halfway through this book now, and the competition is fully underway. It kind of gives like cozy and way less dangerous, like And Then There Were None, Knives Out vibes. Like we're on this remote island in this quirky, cute, cozy house. Like with a few tweaks, this book could be utterly terrifying, but it's not. The house is wonderful and charming. Lucy as a main character is solving riddles. Obviously there's, let's just say, other things happening that are not necessarily all rainbows and butterflies, but her dynamic with Hugo is interesting. And honestly, trying to solve the riddles and piece together the various mysteries as a reader is fun too. And it very much, again, as I keep reiterating, but like the vibe of this place and the author really matches like the essence of what I think of when I think of like huge famous children's author, if you will. But anyway, I'm gonna keep going before I get too tired, but I wanted to let you know we're 50 pages further, and I'm charmed by this competition. I am up and at 'em, and I have read quite a bit of The Wishing Game, and I actually have a reading update for you guys, especially as I'm planning on sitting down and basically finishing the last part of this book. So I would say overall, I'm still liking the story, and a lot of the positive stuff I mentioned, I think still hold true. That being said, I do have a few criticisms, and I think my main criticism is that the middle should actually be longer, and let me elaborate. So this book is not very long. It's under 300 pages, which is not atypical for a book of this genre, particularly like a cozy sort of read, but the author really took her time in setting up the exposition. I want to say like 100 pages before the real meat of the plot really began to take off, which is not my criticism. If you want to take that amount of time to establish our characters' motivations, that's fine. I really feel like I understood her love for her job and for Christopher this worked for me. That being said though, I feel like then we got a really hyper accelerated middle where Hugo and Lucy are meeting and forming a relationship and a connection and just kind of getting to know each other. And even the competition, like the beginning of the competition, felt really, really fast. As we know with any type of book, you're gonna have our kind of peak plot element, the come down from that, and then the ultimate resolution. And I just feel like that middle part where we're getting established in the plot, where characters are getting to know each other, the initial kind of settling in, all of this happened. It just felt very, very condensed and all happened very, very quick. And the rising action also happened very, very quick. I will also say this book is very, 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 very sweet. And there are lots of traumatic plot elements that our characters are sort of exploring from their life, from their past. Obviously from Lucy, we know she has a lot of family trauma, and she also is struggling in her current reality as she fights to try to save Christopher and be able to adopt Christopher. Other characters, Hugo has a complicated past, Jack, the author, has a complicated past, everyone on the island has a complicated past, and this is not necessarily a bad thing, and true, I think, to the human experience. Like, everyone sort of has something. It's going to be formative to our character and just life experience in general, so I don't mind the inclusion of all of these different things, but again, I just think the pacing feels condensed in this. And while I appreciate the emotional resolution and a lot of these conversations that are happening, there just feels like there's a lot of them, and like a lot of expressing these huge emotional moments with people that are basically sort of strangers. And it's not that the time bothers me, it's more like I just haven't had a lot of scenes of these people like really getting to know each other to feel that I believe that they feel emotionally safe with one another. Sharing with Jack makes sense because everyone on this island basically found solace in this childhood book series, so it makes sense that they would kind of have, even if it's a little bit parasocial, like this feeling of closeness to this figure to share. But I don't know, maybe I'm being a little too hypercritical here, but I just feel like the middle felt too condensed and everything feels a little rushed, so it's hard for me to feel as completely invested in the emotional connections and ties between characters that are existing in this book. With that in mind though, I'm still liking it and I'm curious to see how the whole thing is going to wrap up, but it is very, very, very sweet, like a little toothache sweet. But I still think the concept and ultimately like the themes and just like the ride has still been an enjoyable one. It's very much like a Hallmark movie in a book. And even though it's not perfect, it definitely has been a quick read and an enjoyable one where I feel like I can definitely like get through it. I'm gonna be finishing this book in less than 24 hours, which definitely makes me feel like accomplished as a reader, especially in regards to a reading slump. So I do want to say that, but I'm gonna finish it now. I only have this much left, and then I'm gonna read more Best Served Cold, which is so good, but also so disturbing. The contrast between The Wishing Game and Best Served Cold could not be more different. But I am liking this book. I don't want you to think I'm not, but I do feel like it could have been like 100 pages longer, like in the middle. If we got like more middle, more like natural character interactions so I could believe the build-up. Like, I don't need that many character interactions to like be committed to a romance, but there just needed to be a bit more for me. You know what I mean? But anyway, good morning. I'm gonna finish my book. I'm officially finished with my second book of the vlog, and I think my feelings are staying pretty consistent with this one. It was cute and very entertaining, and I read it quickly, but overall I would say I felt some of the plot elements were just underdeveloped, and I just felt like the pacing was too quick for me to feel like fully connected to what was going on. But it was still like a very endearing and easy and fast read, which transparently is exactly kind of what I needed, especially given the slump. But now I am gonna focus all of my attention for the remainder of this vlog to see how far I can get in Best Served Cold by Jo Abercrombie. Hi friends, and welcome to the end of the vlog. The next day, I just wanted to pop in and wrap up everything I was able to read over the course of this reading slump busting vlog. And again, big shout out to my muses, some of my favorite booktubers, for inspiring the TBR for this video. I'm gonna have everyone's channels linked down below if I didn't say so already. But I was able to read about 800 pages and I have 3 books to talk about, which I'm pretty pleased with. And I also feel more inspired again to read books, and I actually think I'll be able to finish the next book I pick up, which is honestly was the goal of this whole thing. Obviously, the first book I was able to complete was A Far Wilder Magic by Alison Sapp. Full Metal Alchemist romance retelling. I gotta hand it to Hannah. She was right on the money with that comparison, and I had a really good time reading this book. I loved the setting, the fantasy elements, and obviously the character dynamics were just absolutely enchanting. This book felt like kind of endearing, cute, and cozy, but obviously had some darker elements of it too. And I just feel like it worked really well, and it was a fast and easy read, and I flew through it. I also was able to complete the Wishing Game. While I wouldn't say this book was perfect, it was a quick and easy, cozy, endearing read, and I really appreciated the sort of whimsical elements of the competition and just the overall setting. I definitely feel like Elliot was right that this book has a lot of heart while still being like cozy and inviting too. So I liked this book, and I also read it super fast. I think this was the quickest read out of all of them. And then I was able to get to page 150 of Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie. This book, I feel like this could be a new all-time favorite. Just the start and the character interactions, Joe Abercrombie just outdoes himself with making such fascinating, complex, and horrifying characters, and I just eat them all up. But thank you guys so much for watching this video, and hopefully my reading slump is gone at least for the remainder of the year, because there are so many books I want to read before the end of 2023. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon with another one soon. Goodbye!